so I can stay until 10.
Okay, we are live and we have a quorum whenever you're ready.
Well, welcome everyone. I just got a flash that my internet is unstable. So can everyone hear me?
We can.
Okay, great. Sorry, apologies in advance if I need to turn off my camera to accommodate that. This is the Friday, January 13th meeting of the Thurston Regional Planning Council. I'm going to call the meeting to order and we are going to start with introduction. So I'm going to go through and read the organization. And if you are here as the voting member, if you could please unmute yourself and introduce yourself, that would be great. And yeah, we'll just start there. And then if I don't have someone, I'll come back around. Sound good? All right. So let's start with Olympia. How about Lacey?
Robin Vasquez, Lacey City Council.
Hi, Robin.
Good morning.
And Tumwater.
Eileen Swarthout, Tumwater City Council.
Good morning, Eileen. How about Thurston County?
Gary Edwards.
Good morning, Commissioner Edwards and Rainier.
Good morning, Dennis McVeigh.
Hi, Dennis. How about Tenino?
Good morning, John O'Callaghan, serving the great city of Tenino.
Good morning, John.
Morning, happy
And-
New Year.
Yeah, happy New Year to you. Yelm.
Joe DePeno here.
Hi, Joe.
Hey.
How about Bucota? And Confederated Tribe.
Chair,
Oh.
Robert Gordon. Oh, and he's just unmuted himself. Robert, if you'd
Oh.
care to introduce yourself.
Robert Gordon, Mayor Bucota.
Hi, Robert. Sorry, I missed you.
Oh, that's okay. I'm at work.
There's a lot of people at work this morning. It's a busy time. Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis. How about Nisqually Indian Tribe? Okay. North Thurston Public Schools. Graham here? No. Okay. And Tumwater School District.
Mel Murray, Tumwater School District.
Hi, Mel. And I'm Hillary Seidel. I'm here representing the Olympia School District and Intercity Transit.
I'm Don Melman, subbing for Mayor Debbie today.
Hi, Don. Nice to have you.
Thank you.
How about Lot Clean Water Alliance?
Hi, everybody. Carolyn Cox representing Lot.
Hi, Carolyn.
Hi.
And Port of Olympia. You have a new person from the port, right?
Yes, Commissioner Amy Evans Harding is going to be the new person. And I do believe she might have said she had a conflict with this meeting, but she
Okay.
will be the new rep.
Great. So how about PUD? Is Chris here? Oh, it's actually Russ Olson now. Sorry, my apologies.
Yeah, they made a switch as well.
Okay, no PUD. And then how about the Thurston Conservation District? Oh, Helen, are you there in person? You're muted, but I'm not sure what I see you waving to us from a room, Helen, so we can see you, but maybe we can figure out what the technical difficulty.
Oh, okay. I think now I'm on. So
Correct.
yeah, Helen Wheatley,
Hear you.
Thurston Conservation District.
Hi, Helen. Nice to see you. And Lacey Fire District, number 3. Sorry, Rick.
Hello, Rick Kelling from Lacey Fire.
Puget Sound Regional Council. I usually have them. Evergreen.
Scott Morgan, the Evergreen State College.
Hey, Scott.
Good morning.
And Thurston EDC. How about Timberland Regional Library? Is Cheryl with us today?
She said she would not make it today. She let us know.
So let's go back. Did I see David Ayel come in, Nisqually?
Yes,
Sorry.
good morning, Dave Isle,
okay.
Nisqually Tribe.
Hi, David. What about Confederated Tribes of the Chehalis? North Thurston Public Schools, or City of Olympia. Did any of those folks join us? Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. It's lovely to have you all here. That brings us to the approval of the agenda. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as written?
Gary Edwards, so moved.
Second, Robin Vasquez.
And Chair, just for the good of the council, folks will notice that the agenda item that we had scheduled for the Trades Training Center, presented by Matt Kennelly and Councilmember Lisa Parsley, they asked that we strike that fairly late before we sent the agenda. They said they're kind of retooling some of their thinking on that, but did ask to potentially come back at a later time after they do some rescoping of this effort. So we'll have a little shorter meeting today.
Great.
Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Mark. And so just to clarify, we are approving the agenda with the strike through for the benefit of council members. I see Robin has a hand up. Go ahead, Robin.
I was just curious if we knew whether they would come in February or did they give you a timeline?
They did not give a timeline, no.
Okay.
But we know people are interested in hearing about it, so we'll definitely make sure.
Hillary?
Yes, Commissioner Edwards.
I guess I just wanted to point out to Mark that my agenda does have that struck out. So somehow they did get that in there.
Yes, mine does as well, Commissioner Edwards. I think we just wanted to
okay.
make sure to be really clear for the benefit of the public that that's why that strike through is there.
Oh,
But,
okay,
yeah, good point.
Because it was, and the reason that we did that, Commissioner and council members, is because it did go out in our pre-agenda as an agenda item. And so we wanted to show that it was there on the pre-agenda, but that it had been struck.
Okay.
Okay, great. And before we take our vote, I want to acknowledge, hi, Clark is here from City of Olympia. Okay, is there any further discussion on the agenda? All right, seeing none, all of those in favor of approving the agenda with the strike through as presented to council, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, oh, I'm sorry, Commissioner Edwards, are you
Nope.
raising your hand to vote or?
No, yes, that's what it was about. I'm sorry.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should have said raising your physical hand. My apologies. All right, the agenda is approved. Onward we merrily march. That brings us to the consent calendar. Is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
So move, Don Melnick.
Second, John O'Callaghan.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the consent calendar. Is there any discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor of approving the consent calendar, please signify by saying aye or raising your physical hand.
Aye.
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 Any opposed? Great. The consent calendar is approved. That brings us to public comment. We have two folks registered for public comment today, and I believe they're both giving public comment live. I have Janet Witt up first, Berlina. I think I saw Janet in the attendees area. Do you want to promote her
Yes,
to speak?
we'll do that.
And what is can you remind me, is it 3 minutes?
It is 3 minutes, yes.
Okay, and Mark, are you managing time for our public commenters? Great. Okay, it looks like Janet, you are given permission to speak. You probably need to unmute yourself. Welcome, and we welcome your public comment for 3 minutes. You can start when you're ready. Janet, you are still muted. Oh, now you're gone. Oh no. Oh, we moved her into the meeting. Okay.
Can you hear me?
We can. Thank you for persevering. Go ahead and start when you're ready.
My name is Jan Witt. I live in Olympia. There's been a lot of attention paid recently to the very bad idea of potential siting of a new airport in central Thurston County. Only a few miles west, another very bad idea has been brewing. plans that could result in accommodation of significant increases in aircraft operations at the Olympia Airport and over Thurston County. The Commercial Aviation Coordinating Commission, the CAC, was established by mandate of the legislature to find places to accommodate a projected future SeaTac overflow of 400,000 annual aircraft operations. There are similarities between planning strategies employed by the CAC and strategies employed during Olympia Airport planning. In both instances, CAC and Olympia Master Plan Update Planning has been steered primarily by people associated with the aviation industry. The CAC has 15 voting members, of which only 2 are citizen representatives and only 1 is a representative of an environmental group. Similarly, the Technical Advisory Committee assigned a decision-making role in Olympia Airport Master Plan Update Planning has included airport users, but neighborhood representatives and others who could be adversely impacted by airport growth were not allowed to be on the advisory committee because they were not considered to be stakeholders. Another similarity is that in both instances, CAC planning and Olympia Airport planning, there has been an avoidance of identification and assessment of environmental impacts at earliest possible points in time. For instance, during CAC meetings, when a CAC citizen representative stated that review of impacts on public health should occur prior to site selections, other CAC members argued that such environmental reviews should wait until after site recommendations had already been made. Olympia Airport development planners have avoided timely environmental review and assessment of cumulative impacts by introducing airport expansion projects in piecemeal fashion over several decades. The last environmental impact statement for the Olympia Airport was conducted in 1994. That EIS stated that no changes were planned for the airport. Since that time, airport projects have included forced property buyouts, runway lengthening, runway strengthening, taxiway changes to increase airport capacity, larger hangars for larger private jets, and now proposals for taxiway changes to accommodate greater numbers of aircraft, more hangars, a new turf runway, and a commercial aviation feasibility study with plans for a new passenger terminal, an aircraft de-icing area, and 600 parking stalls with room for more. Cumulative impacts of all of those capacity enhancing projects have never been assessed. Please do everything you can to assure that environmental impacts of airport development, including cumulative impacts, are thoroughly assessed, a wide array of alternatives identified and analyzed before decisions are made. Thank you for this opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Jan. We appreciate your public comment. Next up, we have Ursula Euler. And I think I see you, Ursula. Are you with Helen? Yes. Okay, great. Ursula, you may go ahead and start when you're ready. You have 3 minutes.
Have you a mouse? Oh, okay.
There you go.
I think now you can hear me. Thank you. Yes, my name is Ursula Euler. I can only, when I hear Ms. Witt's testimony, I can only second that very, very strongly, because this aviation search for additional capacity has many, many systemic problems, very deep-rooted systemic problems. I was not actually going to say that this morning. I actually came for a couple of other reasons, but it does fit. I, first of all, want to thank you as well. I am a 2-year observer of the CAC. I was present at all the meetings, And unfortunately, you really had to be there to hear what they say. Do not go by what they say officially to official organizations or what they put in writing. It's very misleading. To me, they are lies. They do not shrink back from lying. It's very, very disconcerting and not in our interest and not in the public interest. Your letter, therefore, that you are voting on today is very appropriate. The strength of it is very appropriate. And I want to thank you for that again, and to staff who has written it very, very well, making very good points. With that said, I want to fast forward to a different level of communication. I am a volunteer with 350 Seattle, who is a volunteer organization of communities around SeaTac. Cities around SeaTac have long had to deal with the SeaTac airport, have lots of real life on the ground experience. And I observe meetings with the Seattle airport, or with the Port of Seattle, that supposedly is to include these stakeholders into solutions of problems around SeaTac. I'm finding out that it is far from solving any solution, finding any solutions, because the communities get shut out actively, purposely, so rigorously. It is intentional, I'm sorry to say. But I want to make you aware of a letter that the Port of Seattle is writing to the FAA. The FAA, I'm learning, goes through a recertification process. I believe it is every 5 years, if not every 6 years, I'm not sure. But 2023 is the year of its current recertification. And communities, members of the industry become active trying to influence their legislators in Washington, D.C. And so does the Port of Seattle. The Port of Seattle has actually written, I have a draft of a letter here that I obtained through a public records request to legislators, our delegates, Patty Murray, Adam Smith, Rick Larson, Maria Cantwell, Premier Jayapal, Marilyn Strickland in Washington, D.C. to comment on this recertification. And it includes information such as the growth at SeaTac. It's asking for money, for more money from the FAA for capacity increases because of the supposed growth at SeaTac. I just want to encourage you to not shrink back, to wield your influence. We can only have smart growth, even if it is with an airport. We can only have smart growth if we make our voices heard as a community, and we shouldn't let ourselves be shut out. I will provide this letter to your director, and there's a lot of political garbage around it. It's actually signed by the cities around SeaTac, but there's a lot of political garbage around for decades that I don't just want to put this out into the public and to you without explaining some of that garbage, for which I don't have time this morning. But I will supply it to your director, to Mark Daly, and he can decide where to go from there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ursula. We appreciate your public comment. Apologies, I'm going off camera a little bit here and there because my internet connection is real wonky this morning. So, but we appreciate your participation. I want to pause right here because I see that Michael Cade joined us. So I want to acknowledge that. Nice to have you, Michael. And also, I did it again. Mark, do you have someone to introduce staff who are here with us? Apologies, staff. You are so essential, and I think I was at 6s and 7s with changes to the agenda and stuff. So my apologies. Go ahead, Mark.
We do. Katrina Van Every and her partner are prepared to introduce staff.
Good morning. From TRPC, you have myself and Mark Daly, as well as Durin the Merrill, Berlino Lucas, Karen Parkhurst, Dave Reed, Amy Hatch Winnica, Michael Ambrogi, Tyson Justice, and Paul Brewster. From Intercity Transit, we have Ann Freeman Manzanares, Peter Stackpole, who is the new Development Director for IT, and Jessica Gould. From Thurston County, we have Matt Unzelman, and from the city of Lacey, we have Martin Hoppy. And I believe that is anyone, but if I missed you, please speak up and feel free to introduce yourself.
We have Jennifer Pretty as staff from the Olympia School District. Does anybody else have staff here that's not been introduced? All right, welcome staff. Again, my humble apologies. Okay, so we're moving on to the call for written nominations. So this is the time when we do, now that we have seated any new members who are representing their organization, we take this opportunity in January to call for written nominations for officers. I'm going to read my little script here. So this is per our bylaws. Our officers are elected every year. Traditionally, officers have served in their position for 2 years. And I believe, Mark, has everyone agreed to serve for a second year? So
They have.
that has been agreed to, but that does not keep us from accepting nominations. So if you would like to make a nomination for chair, vice chair, or secretary, you should submit your nominations for officer positions to Berlina Lucas no later than January 23rd. And I by writing, we can do email, right? It doesn't have to be like a piece of paper, although that would be kind of cool. Okay. Is there anything else about that I missed, Mark?
Nope, that was perfect.
Okay, great. That brings us to item number 7, which is the airport letter follow-up. And just as a reminder, this is the letter that we saw last month. Some members requested an extra month to bring it back to their organizations they represent because it is a very specific letter and not everybody has continuing dialogue about transportation infrastructure as a part of their relational decision-making within their board. So I'm going to hand it off to Mark just to introduce the letter again, and then we'll open it up for discussion.
Thanks, Chair. And really, what you said is pretty much, I don't have a presentation. We've talked about this quite a bit and went through the letter on a point-by-point basis at our last meeting. As Chair Seidel said, a number of council members requested time to take it back and discuss the letter and its contents with their jurisdiction, with their entity, before taking a vote on this. And so really at this point, this is for council discussion, continuing on the letter that is in your packet, and for possible action. And so I'll turn it over to you, Chair, to facilitate the council's discussion.
Great. Well, first, a quick question. Are there any changes from the letter we saw in December, Mark?
No, as requested, there are no changes.
Okay, so are there any questions for Mark or questions about the letter? If not, I would entertain a motion to approve the letter. Any questions? There'll be time for discussion, but are there questions before we do a motion to approve? You can use your hand button. Sorry, Rick. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. Just confirmation. Did the chair of the CAC change out, Mark?
Yes, and so thank you for asking that. The chair has changed. So when we drafted this letter, David Fleckenstein was still the chair. He left Department of Transportation and is now in the private sector. And so the vice chair, Warren Hendrickson, is now the acting chair of CAC. And so obviously the letter, we will change the letter to reflect the current chair.
Thanks for bringing that up, Rick. Are there any other questions questions about the letter, questions about the process? If not, is there a motion to approve the letter?
Dennis McVeigh Rainier, I make a motion to approve the letter as written.
Second.
Okay.
John
So it's been And John O'Callahan is seconding. So it's been moved and seconded. We approve the letter as presented. Now, is there any discussion? Now, for frame of reference, if you're joining us for the first time or the first time in a while, I try and run an equitable queue. So I let folks who haven't had the chance to speak yet speak first. And so if you would like to speak or you have comments or discussion to share, please raise your hand and then we'll start the queue. All right. It doesn't look like there's any discussion. So seeing no additional discussion, all those in favor of approving the letter as written, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand, your physical hand, or both.
Aye.
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 Any approve? Oh, I'm sorry, I see a hand up. Alan, is that a question or a hand to vote yes?
No, it should be changed, Robert. I thought we were voting.
We are voting. Are you voting to approve the letter, Alan?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, great. Any against? And are there any abstentions? Great. Seeing none, the letter is approved as written. Thank you very much to Mark and staff. And thank you to council members who gave those of us who requested some extra time to bring that back to our organizations and have a thoughtful conversation with our fellow electeds about it. That brings us to the TRPC operating budget and pay and classification plan. This is going to be presented to us by Tyson. Hi, Tyson, take it away.
And actually, I'm gonna do the presentation. on
Oh,
this.
you
We made
are?
a-
Okay,
a
sorry, Mark.
change, Chair.
No,
No,
go ahead.
that we made a change on that. So congrats on passing that letter. We're really gonna get out of here quickly at this rate. So thank you, council members. So just as a reminder on process, so each year, council in January, council approves our annual budget. And this is one of those items where council takes action on the first time that it comes to you. And the reason that we do it that way is a couple reasons. One, our budget simply finalizes the numbers that you have already seen in the Unified Planning Work Program for our transportation work that you approve each spring. And so our current one runs from July 2022 to June 2023. So you will approve a new Unified Planning Work Program this spring as well. And it implements the annual work program, the overall annual work program that you approved last month. And so these are the numbers that implement what council has already approved. And just some highlights of the budget. Our expected revenue and expenditures for the coming year are very, very similar to last year, about 4.8 million in revenue and expenditures. This includes about 3.75 million from state and federal sources, about 400,000 from local contracts, and about 670,000 from our member assessments. And we are proposing a 4.5% cost of living adjustment for staff salaries. Each year, we do a survey of members on what kind of cost of living adjustment our members are considering. And this year, they were somewhere between 4 and 5.5%. And so we are proposing something somewhat in the middle, 4.5%. As a cost of living for staff. One thing that is incredibly important to note is with some of the cost increases and inflation that we are all seeing, I said that our revenue and expenditures haven't changed much. However, that revenue buys less than it did before inflation. And so our budget is very tight. And we are going to be monitoring it very, very closely. This past year, we did dip into our fund balance by about 128,000. Obviously, we cannot continue to do that. And so this year we will really be managing our costs to make sure that we can balance this budget come year end. Another important note here is we are becoming a transportation management area. We've talked about this a little bit, but just as a reminder, we're the Metropolitan Planning Organization for our region under federal law. And part of that federal law states that any MPO that's urban area has 200,000 or more residents becomes a transportation management area. We've been waiting for the 2020 census numbers because each time they change the boundaries a little bit to make sure if we've hit that threshold. Just last week, I think it was, they finally finalized the boundaries for the Lacey, Olympia, Tumwater urban area, and we have a population of 208,000 and change. So we are becoming a transportation management area. That's a good thing. It comes with some more responsibilities under the federal government, a little more scrutiny from Federal Highway Administration and Federal Transit Administration. There's still a fair amount of process to really get us up and running as a TMA. And we'll keep talking to you about that all along the rest of the year and next year, because this will be a bit of a process as we work into those additional requirements. So, but that is a big change, and that's also a big change. This matters for intercity transit as well. So we will be working with intercity transit to make sure we're coordinated, because us hitting that threshold also has some implications for intercity transit as well. So some noteworthy changes in this budget. We are providing some additional funding and services that we receive from the state for rural transit. This will establish Saturday service for rural transit. It'll reestablish the service to Yelm and improve some of the service between Rainier and Tenino. So we're pretty darn excited actually about being able to provide a little more through rural transit. We received funding to start implementation of the Martin Way project. We received funding from the state to start working on the street crossing strategies in the Martin Way plan. And we're pretty excited about that. It's not often that you finish a plan and immediately have implementation funding, and that's what we're doing this year. So pretty excited. We also received a National Estuary Program grant that comes to the state through the Environmental Protection Agency. And this is on a stormwater, roadway stormwater retrofits to do an inventory and kind of prioritize where stormwater retrofits would make the most difference for water quality in our region. We were awarded $438,000 for that, working with Olympia, Lacey, Tumwater, and Thurston County. That work will get started this year, but for the most part will be in 2024 and 2025. And another big emphasis this year is we'll be looking for more grant opportunities to help increase that revenue and get some more work done for our region. So those are the highlights, and we are looking for council action to approve the 2023 budget.
Move approval.
Thank you, Mark. It sounds like, are there any questions before we do any questions for Mark? Okay, so it sounds like John has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Robin.
All right, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the TRPC operating budget and pay and classification plan. Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your physical hand, or both.
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, are there any abstentions? Sorry, I forgot to ask that a while back. Okay, great. The budget and pay and classification plan is approved with our thanks. Thank you to Mark and staff for all of your excellent and hard work and kind of giving us a little snapshot of what's coming up next for you guys. Exciting. That brings us to the Human Service Transportation Plan prioritized project list. Is Karen here with us today? Oh, there you are, Karen. Hi. Okay, take it away, Karen. Am I the only one who can't hear?
Yeah, Karen, we are not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. In November, you approved the Human Services Transportation Plan. And in that plan, we talk about what are the needs and gaps and services that we have in the region that are particularly focused on people who, because of age, income, or ability, may face special transportation challenges. And so you approved that, and in there was a prioritized project list, and that was a placeholder because we didn't know all of the projects that were going to apply for funding. The Human Services Transportation Plan is tied very closely to the Department of Transportation's coordinated consolidated grant program. So if you want to apply for funding under that grant program, your project must be in the Human Services Transportation Plan. And so we had a due date of when we needed to adopt the plan, but at that time we didn't know all of the projects that would be applying for funds. Something that DOT does, which we are very grateful for, is they give metropolitan planning organizations the ability to add points to the projects and prioritize the projects that are coming from their area. Prior to them doing this, sometimes we didn't even know all the projects that might show up from our area. So the prioritized project list that was in the plan that you approved in November was not quite what ended up being in the application process, which is why we're coming back to you today, not as a consent item, but with some changes. So originally, Intercity Transit had a couple of projects they were going to apply for. The vendor that we use for RT was looking at some buying some vehicles. They decided not to do that. So there are 3 projects that are being applied for under the Consolidated Grant Program that are from the Thurston region. The first is the Rural Transportation Program, or RT, and that's a continuing application to keep it running. The second application is expanding RT, and the expansion of RT will add Saturday service, which is something that we've heard a lot about from the rural community being important to them. It will also do a direct connection from Rainier to Yelm so that people have a quicker trip to connect, and we'll add several routes and just try and really make some more direct connections. The third is Catholic Community Services, and they partner with Intercity Transit for the Bus Buddies program. If you don't know about that, it's a great program. It basically says, hey, you could take Dial-A-Lift if you wanted. Hey, you could ride fixed route transit if you wanted. All these options are available to you depending on, how you want to ride the bus and what you need from the bus service. But just general transit where you can get on a bus without making reservations in advance, where you can spontaneously do something, that provides the most independence and freedom. But what we know is there are people who haven't ridden the bus since 2nd grade. And so the Bus Buddies program basically helps people understand how to ride the bus. And they provide information, they help plan trips. These are all volunteers, help plan trips. And they also will ride along until you are comfortable on the route. We hear a lot from people who have children with disabilities who talk about how important this is to create independence for those children. So it's a really good program, and that's the third. we are assigned points and grades for how we can move these forward, these projects by DOT that are based on demographics, percentage of people that are over 85, percentage of minorities in the community. And we have 3 A's, 3 B's, 4 C's, and as many D's as we want. And so we have 3 projects and 3 A's. So we are hoping to assign 3 A's. What A means this year in the Consolidated Grant Program is that as long as the legislature provides the funding that they have committed to, all of these 3 projects will be funded. So it's good news. So we're just asking you to basically approve the updated project list with those 3 projects on it today.
John O'Callaghan, so moved.
Hang on just one second. Are there any questions for Karen before the motion to approve? I do see a question from Rick. Rick, go ahead.
Just to confirm your last statement, Karen. So this current legislative session, the budget that is resulted from this drives funding for these programs, correct?
It basically does, but some of this is federal funding that comes down and is distributed. So it is not all state money. We have no indication that it will be less because what's coming from the federal government is greater. But they won't officially tell us these projects are funded until the budgets are out.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. Good clarifying question, Rick. Are there any other questions before we move on to John's motion to approve? All right. Oh, Eileen, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious on the amount that was given to provide, or that they're requesting for rural transit. When you talked about they wanted to add more vehicles, was it because that was the set amount? That's the amount that the most that they could ask for, or?
No, they decided that they, for a variety of reasons, they didn't have a funding partner. As a for-profit organization, they can't apply for funds. So they work with a nonprofit to apply for the funds. And that partnership didn't happen for a variety of reasons. Those of you who have put grants together know that there's a lot of pieces that come together, and that didn't happen. So they're waiting until the next cycle.
Thanks, Karen. Good question, Eileen. I see Michael Cade has a question. Go ahead, Michael.
Yeah, thank you very much, Hillary. More than a comment than anything else, Karen. Thank you for your attention to special needs. As we come out of the COVID pandemic, and we had a lot of instances where individuals with special needs were not being accommodated, and they were specifically and adversely impacted by opportunities to move about the community and gain meaningful employment. That is a really important thing for this community. I just wanted to thank you for your attention to that, because it is very important as we look to meet the needs of all of our citizens and create an inclusive opportunity there. So I wanted to just thank you for that. So
thank you, Michael. And please, I'm going to do a call for, hey, everybody, make sure you know that RT exists. And if you'd like to have brochures in your offices, we'd be happy to provide those. We'd be happy to talk about them. Sometimes people forget that service exists until they need it.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing that up, Michael. I know that the use of transit is just such an important and critical piece for many of the students in our school district to participate in the transition program, which is for those of you who aren't aware, it's a program that schools offer typically for students post 18, but before 21. They are entitled to spend more time, if they would like, developing their skills and their essential skills for living independently. And transit plays such a critical role for those students and their families. So are there any further questions before we entertain John's motion to approve? All right, John, will you make your motion again for me?
What did I say last time? I just moved to
Move
approve.
to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve, hang on, let me write it down. The Human Service Transportation Plan Prioritized Project List. Is there any further discussion?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who seconded that.
Robin.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
Sorry, Berlina.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye, and or raising your physical hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? And anyone abstaining? Great. The project list is approved. We are scheduled to take a break, but I feel like we are just crushing it. Katrina, do you mind if we just move on to the regional transportation plan? And I guess maybe we could take a break before the profile, or we could just kind of keep going.
I'm ready to go if you'd like me to.
Yeah. I mean, anybody have any concerns about, we're ahead of schedule, so.
No,
Okay.
let's try to end this quicker if we can.
Joe's like, let's do it. Feeling it. All right. Katrina, take it away.
All right. Good morning, everyone. I'm here to talk to you about the list of proposed amendments to the regional transportation plan. So we open up on an annual basis the opportunity for jurisdictions to amend the project list, which is part of the recommendations of the plan. And we also look at the items that that need to be put into the plan whenever amendments come up. So these are things that may be required by federal law or important changes that need to be taken into consideration. So we started this process back in the fall, and so we are just now circling forward to you guys to have just a brief review of what is being proposed at this point in time. So back in the fall, we got 3 amendment requests. One of them was from the city of Olympia. It is to remove the log cabin road connection. As you may know, so this is an area of Olympia that has had a plan for a connector between Boulevard Road and Wiggins Road. And so this was actually removed from, this project was removed from the city's comprehensive plan. And in its place, they are looking to do a connectivity study in the Southeast Olympia area. In addition to that, TRPC staff is proposing 2 amendments. One is to reflect the fact that our regional transportation plan is now on a 5-year plan cycle rather than a 4-year plan cycle. That stems from the fact that we are no longer in a maintenance area for air quality concern. And so that is what that is what defines whether or not you're on a 4 or 5-year plan cycle. Now that we are out of that air quality maintenance area time period, and our air quality is acceptable, it reverts to a 5-year plan cycle. The third amendment is to add in the transit safety performance measures that Intercity Transit adopts on an annual basis, and TRPC in turn adopts on an annual basis. So this is just cleanup, taking that information and putting it into our plan, which is required under federal regulations. In addition to that, we had some last minute surprises with regard to amendments. So Intercity Transit reached out last week and said, hey, we've got a couple of projects that we feel need to be included in the RTP. It's important to us to ensure that these projects are there sooner than later, since they are partially funded with federal funds, and that including them in the plan makes it easier for them to secure additional federal funding for them. And those are the Northeast Lacey Operational Terminal Facility. You might be familiar as another name it comes by is the Lacey Roundabout over on Martin Way and Meridian Deutero. So this is very edge of the urban area before you go down the hill, Nisqually Hill. And so what they're looking at is putting in a roundabout there to create a really easy place for transit to turn around and as they're serving Martin Way. The other project is the alternative fuel infrastructure project, and that will develop a comprehensive alternative fuel study, a demonstration project, and phased implementation of new facilities to provide a pathway for IT to get to zero emission public transportation fleets and the infrastructure to support it. So those two were proposed by IT, and they requested that those be included in this amendment cycle. Based on conversation at TPB on Wednesday, there was some concern about pulling the Log Cabin Road connection out because it has been in the RTP for so long, and it does have a big impact on regional mobility. And so the flip side of that is that with the city pulling that out, they are also looking at doing the street connectivity study in Southeast Olympia. And so, you know, I just raised the fact that we can go ahead and add that project into the plan so that Log Cabin Road doesn't disappear fully, but that, you know, the city is taking a step back to really look at that area in fuller scope so that they can really understand what is needed to address traffic concerns in that region. So that is just to balance that out. So we have 6 amendments now. We started with 3 and now we have 6. So as part of updating the RTP, it is a financially constrained plan. That means that we can only include projects that a region can afford to complete with existing revenues or what we reasonably expect to be available. And so removing the Log Cabin Road connection and adding the Southeast Olympia Street connectivity study represents a net reduction in regional project spending. And then those 2 IT projects were already accounted for in IT's budgets, which go into the RTP, but they weren't yet clearly defined. So they weren't called out as specific projects. But because of these factors, we know that the RTP will remain a fiscally constrained plan. Neither the 5-year plan cycle nor the transit safety performance measures affect the RTP's status as a financially constrained plan. However, they are significant enough changes that they do require a public comment period, and so we are including them in this amendment cycle. So what exactly is changing? What's being affected? So what you'll see is that those projects are in the recommendations chapter 2. So Log Cabin Road, the Southeast Street, Olympia Street connectivity study, the Lacey or the IT roundabout, and the alternate fuel infrastructure project. All of those will go into chapter 2 or affect chapter 2 recommendations, as well as Appendix L, where we provide more detail about those specific projects. In addition to that, chapter 6, the finance chapter will be affected a little bit with the Log Cabin Road and the Olympia Street connectivity study. So we'll just need to readdress those numbers so that they are reflective of what's changed. The Northeast, the fuel infrastructure project and the Lacey roundabout, again, would be added to the recommendations in the regional project list detail. The 5-year plan cycle, those are just, for the most part, changing references. But the most significant change is that staff is proposing deleting Appendix G altogether. So this is an air quality conformity review and determination. And so since this is no longer necessary, it makes sense to just pull it out of the plan altogether. And then finally, the transit safety performance net measures. This really just affects Appendix I, the system performance report. And so we would add a new section for those safety performance targets regarding fatalities, injuries, safety events, and system reliability in the transit system. So where are we going with all of this is our next step is that next Friday, January 20th, we will commence a 14-day public review period, and that will end early February. We will take any comments that we have from the public as well as from other agencies that will be part of that public review, and screen those in for the TPB's next review. So on March 8th, we'll bring that to TPB for consideration of a recommendation. And then we will bring it back to you in April for your action. And with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I'm happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Katrina. So great. Thanks especially for the timeline, just as a reminder of when we're going to see this again. Are there any questions? We're not taking action, so this is really just a time to ask any questions you might have about the amendments. We're uncharacteristically an unquestioning group today, but I consider that a testament to the excellent preparation and presentation. So, okay. Oh, wait, nope, Eileen has a question. Apologies. Go ahead, Eileen.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. So on the log cabin, so it's staying in or because
So
it looks like, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, the log cabin road connection that is being pulled out of the plan. It is no longer a project in the city's comprehensive plan. But what they did is they replaced it with this Southeast Olympia connectivity study. So that that area will be part of that review include for that.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Good clarification, Eileen. It's essentially a swap, it sounds like, right, Katrina?
Yeah, we're taking a step back to do a study, and then the city can determine whether or not that connection is going to be needed long-term.
Okay, and I see Clark nodding, so confirmation. All right, are there any other questions about the amendments? All right, I do not see any hands up. Thank you very much, Katrina. I think, should we just move to, I mean, you know me, I've been looking forward to this all year. It's my favorite, the profile. Who's doing it? Michael and Casey.
That'll be me today.
Profile?
That works for me if it works for all you.
Take it away, guys.
All right, second to get my screen shared here. Great, can everyone see that?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. So yeah, one of my favorite topics is to talk about the profile. Kind of switch things to a lighter mode here. So for those of you who are maybe new to council or are unfamiliar with the profile, it's one of TRPC's longest standing data programs. The profile is a collection of data and statistics all about the Thurston region and cities, towns, and communities within our area. There's over 80 different kind of tables and topics that we monitor, and they're kind of organized broadly in these 10 different topic areas, everything from land use, education, transportation, to our newest chapter, which is racial equity. This was originally a printed document. I think for over 20 years, we published this. We've since moved it online, so you can now find the profile and all the data that it includes at trbc.org/theprofile. Provides a good overview of everything that's there. One of the things that I always like to highlight is the statistical profiles. If you're kind of unfamiliar with some of the data in the profile, you can download these 2-page summaries of data all about each community. And we've revamped those over the years. Now they're kind of a little bit more graphical, a little bit more user-friendly. We've got some charts and tables in there, as well as some graphs. And again, it's a nice summary, a good overview of the demographics and trends of each community in Thurston County. The profile is used pretty broadly throughout the community. We get a lot of requests from the public as well as our members and other staff. It's used for everything from writing grants to just writing reports. We also use it for a lot of TRPC's data programs. So you might have heard that TRPC updated a greenhouse gas emissions inventory for 2022 for the Thurston region. And a lot of the data that goes into that inventory was pulled directly from the profile. Everything from agriculture, topics around agriculture, to topics around population forecasts, how much solid waste is generated in our community, things about energy use, all that led directly into the greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And of course, you can get the results of that inventory on the profile as well. We kind of like to refresh the data every once in a while, and this year we added 2 new topics to it. So we have data on electric vehicle registrations in Thurston County from the Department of Licensing, as well as some data on the number of public electric vehicle charging stations. So this chart's just one of many that we include there. It shows the percentage of vehicle registrations that are for electric vehicles over the past 5 years. And you can see that although the numbers increase over time, it's still pretty low, about 1.5%. And we do recognize that there's a lot of information online and it might be hard to find what you're looking for. So if you're writing a report and you can't find what you're looking for, don't hesitate to reach out. Casey and I are very happy to answer any questions that you may have and help you find data that maybe isn't online. But I always feel like the best way to learn about what's in the profile is not just by me talking about it, but to do a little trivia to test everyone's knowledge about Thurston County data. This year, we're going to try a new platform since we're all working remotely. So we're going to use this platform called ahaslides.com. So if you log in to the website here, you can also use this QR code to log in. And you can do this either using your smartphone, or if you're at a computer, you can open up a browser and type in ahaslides.com/TRPC22. So it looks like a few folks are on top of it. We got 7 folks that have joined already. So what this is going to be, we have 13 questions prepared for you, all about Thurston County trivia. They're multiple choice questions. Once you log in, you can add your name and select an avatar. And as I go through the questions, you can answer them. So we can kind of see a little competition, see who knows the most about our community. The faster you respond, the more points you get. So there's a little incentive to answer as quickly as you can. And it looks like we got 12 people logged in so far. Anyone having any issues with either the QR code or the URL?
I think it's my internet, but I'm excited to see it.
If you can't log in, don't worry. You can still kind of follow along. You know, this is a collaborative effort. So if you think you know the answer, you can just shout it out, even if you haven't logged in. It looks like we got a good number there. I'll give folks a couple more seconds. So without any objections, I am just going to move forward. I'll keep that QR code up there in case folks are still trying to log in. So let's go ahead and get started. So question 1 of 13, this is just kind of an easy one to get everyone warmed up here. So how often do you get data from the profile? No wrong answer here. We just kind of want to know how much people use it. So what's the profile? Hopefully by now folks are a little more familiar with it. Every once in a while or all the time. Great, we got some folks that are responding. Give people a couple more seconds here. Again, this is just kind of a warm up. And let's see. So great, it looks like everyone on council is at least once in a while visited the profile. A couple of enthusiastic users too, great to see. So question 2, and here's where the trivia starts. What percentage did intercity transit's ridership change between 2020 and 2021? Did it increase by 35%, 12%, or did it decrease by 5%? And again, if you had issues logging in, think you know the answer, help your fellow council members out, shout out the answer. No harm in that. So let's see. Oh, a little hard question for folks. So it looks like it increased by 12%. So total boardings for intercity transit increased from 2.3 to 2.6 million boardings, and that includes fixed route service, dial lift, and van pools. Next question. Which of the following counties had the lowest apartment vacancy rate in 2022? Was it King County, Pierce County, or Thurston County? Anyone think they know? Couple more seconds here. Let's see, everyone's answered. So yeah, well done. Thurston County had a vacancy rate of check my notes here. So the apartment vacancy rate was 4.2% in King County, 3.8% in Pierce, and 2.5% in Thurston County. So very low vacancy in Thurston County. Our next question, how many pounds of solid waste did the average Thurston County resident generate in 2021? So this is waste that's headed to a landfill. So it excludes recycling and compost. Was it 1,000 pounds, 1,200, 1,300, or 1,500? And let's see. So tough question. So the correct answer was actually 1,500 pounds. So Thurston residents generate a total of 225,000 tons of solid waste in 2021. And that was the 8th year in a row that the amount of solid waste per person has increased. Our next question, which Thurston County School District was the most racially or ethnically diverse over the 2021 to 2022 school year? Was it Griffin, North Thurston, Olympia School District, or Tenino School District? Oh, everyone was quick on this one. And correct, yeah, so everyone got it right. North Thurston School District. It's the first school district where over 50% of students identify as a person of color. Question 6. How much did commercial electricity use change between 2020 and 2021? This is one of the topics that went into the emissions inventory. Did it increase by 15%, 5%? Did it decrease by 5% or decrease by 15%? Let's take a look. Tough question. So yeah, after declining 18% in 2020 due to the pandemic, commercial electricity use increased by 5% in 2021. So a big drop, but then it's been rebounding. Question 7, which Thurston County jurisdiction had the highest median household income? Was it Olympia, Rainier, Tenino, Tumwater, or Yelm? Couple more seconds, down to the wire here.
People are really thinking on this one.
Yeah, I know. Oh, looks like we were split, but no one got it right. So yeah, Yelm
That's
had the
embarrassing
highest,
for me.
highest median household income, 77,000 for the 2016 to 2020 time period. We're at the halfway mark, so let's see how folks are doing. And it looks like, yeah, Helen is taking the lead. Must be in the office down in room B. Well done. So see if she can maintain it over the second half here. Question 8. Which of the following languages have the most speakers in Thurston County? So of these 4 languages, Chinese, Korean, Tagalog or Filipino, or Vietnamese? The correct answer was Vietnamese. So yes, roughly 2,600 Thurston County residents speak Vietnamese at home. Korean, Tagalog, and Chinese all have over 1,000 speakers in Thurston County.
Michael, what's the percentage difference between Korean and Vietnamese? Do you know? Oh,
I'll
sorry.
follow up after, once we get to this, I'll answer that question. So next question, which of these Thurston County communities had the highest percentage of households with children? So of these 4 communities, the Chehalis Reservation, Nisqually Reservation, Rainier, and Tumwater. Couple more seconds here. Let's take a look. So the correct answer was Nisqually Reservation. Well done, folks. 37% of households in the Nisqually Reservation have children compared to 30% countywide. But as one of the communities that wasn't listed here, Yelm, which actually has the highest percentage of all Thurston County communities. And going back to the question on language, it's kind of a tough question to answer because the data on language comes from the American Community Survey, and these are pretty small populations. So we often see that the margin of error around those estimates is off. So you see from year to year that often changes, but those 3 or 4 are kind of neck and neck. So disappointing answer, sorry. Was there another question? I thought I heard someone chime in there.
Oh, that was me. I was just going to say, yeah, the ACS estimate is about 2,000 for Korean and about 2,600 for Vietnamese.
That's why I have Casey on the line. Thank you. So we'll move on to question 10. Which sector had the highest percentage of greenhouse gas emissions in the 2021 countywide inventory? Was it agriculture, buildings and energy, transportation, or water and waste? Give folks a couple more seconds here. Looks like everyone's answered. So yes, the correct answer was buildings and energy. So that buildings and energy, which includes emissions due to natural gas and electricity consumption, accounts for 54% of Thurston County's emissions in the 2021 inventory. The next question, which of these Thurston County lakes had the best water quality in the 2020 to 2021 water year? Was it Hicks Lake, Lake St. Clair, Summit Lake, or Ward Lake? Admittedly, a harder question. Let's take a look. So the correct answer was actually Summit Lake. So Summit Lake's water quality was rated good to excellent according to Thurston County's water quality monitoring reports. And that's based on measures of water clarity, nutrient loads, and other metrics. And they update these reports kind of on a rolling basis as data becomes available for different lakes. Question 12. Which Thurston County School District had the lowest enrollment count in 2021 to 2022? Was it Griffin, Rainier, Rochester, or Tenino? And these are the 4 smallest school districts within Thurston County. We'll give folks a couple more seconds. Here we go. And yeah, the correct answer was Griffin School District. With only 624 students, Griffin School District is the smallest, followed by Rainier. And our final question, something that's in the news a lot. What was Thurston County's unemployment rate in 2021? Was it 4.4%, 5.2%, 5.8%, or 6.4%? Let's take a look. Harder question, but the correct answer was 5.2%. Thurston County's unemployment rate was higher than King County's, which is 4.3%, but lower than all of our neighboring counties. See how we did? Ooh, there we go. Councilmember Ayala takes the prize. Unfortunately, we don't have any prizes to hand out since, all remote here, but you get the respect of your fellow council members. Congratulations. And thank you all for your time and keep using the profile.
Thank you, Michael and Casey. I just love it so much. Thank you and also because I'm a little bit of a competitive game person, it like scratches every itch for me. And I'm going to take a moment of just privilege since we are ahead and just say one of the things that I think is so valuable that I try and remind people about is that we're so lucky to have this in our community. We don't have to guess when we're trying to make decisions about things because we have data that can show us that. And I'm going to share a really quick example of this from our meeting last night, where I used the profile in the meeting, by the way. We were having a conversation about, many of you may have heard that enrollment has declined in about 70% of the school districts in our state. And we have specific numbers about our school district. But what's more difficult to tease out is where those students are. And because we have the profile, we can avoid making some assumptions that could be detrimental. So for example, some folks in our community have said, well, everyone's going to private school, but the profile tells us that although public school enrollment has declined about 2,000 students in our county, private school enrollment has remained the same and actually dipped a little lower and then just recovered last year. So what that does for us as decision makers is it makes sure that we understand that those students are still in our community and they're not attending a private school, which tells us that probably they're attending school at home. Their family is attempting some form of homeschooling. And as my fellow school district people will testify, that means we have to think, when will these students potentially come back to us, and what will we need to be prepared to offer them when they return to us? I'm fond of saying they're going to come back to us when their families realize they can't teach them algebra, right? So maybe like 8th grade. But those are really important things for us to know. And without the profile, we have to guess at those things. So I want to just lift up so much gratitude and thanks to everyone who works on it, because it means that we just make so much better decisions in this community because of the depth and the detail and the excellence of that data and that tool and resource. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Clark, go ahead.
I just wanted to ask, I know I was lucky enough to meet Casey on the Martin Way tour. Has Casey been introduced to the broader organization here?
Yeah, I'll introduce Casey. She's one of our newest
Thank
planners
you.
at TRPC, but she's been here for over a year, almost
A year this week, actually.
year this week. Yeah, so she's been a huge help helping me update all the tables in the profile, preparing the materials for that presentation, and really taking the lead on it, which I'm very grateful for.
And I guess I want to chime in here. Casey's been with us a year, and she's already involved in so many pieces of our work. She has just been an absolute excellent addition to our planning staff. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah, thank you, Clark. And thank you, Casey. Robin.
I just wanted to amplify what you'd said, Hillary, about the value of the profile. I was reviewing the profile a few days ago, and during the Board of Health meeting for Thurston County, we were talking about prioritizing potential additional funding for the Board of Health and making recommendations to the county commissioners. And one of the items on the agenda was translation of important documents where we communicate to the community about public health services. And we were talking about translating into Spanish and Vietnamese. And because I saw on the profile that Korean is actually the second most commonly spoken language in Lacey, and I think in maybe Olympia as well, or Tumwater, I brought it up during the meeting and said, if we're going to be translating languages, I'd like to make sure that we translate in Spanish, Vietnamese, and also Korean, because it's close to Vietnamese in terms of numbers of speakers. So we use the profile to make that recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners. So it really is very valuable in making decisions.
Yeah, absolutely. I see Helen. I think you have a hand up, Helen. Is that right? Okay, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah. Oh, Robin, I'm thrilled to hear that you're expanding the translations. That's really great. I had a couple of things. One was, I was wondering, Michael, if there's any room on that homepage for the profile to, like, the first sort of overview page with the demographic data on it. I was just wondering if there's any room to put race and ethnicity data on that, on that sort of overview page, because it seemed like it wasn't there. Would that be something to think about? I mean, it's pretty crammed already, but
yeah, there's a lot of information there. I'll check, because I think many of those topics are, so maybe there's better ways that we can organize that. So thank you.
Yeah. And then another thing, and this is because, it's not directly related to the profile, but it's something that I think I had wanted to bring up at the last meeting. We had the cost of living index presented. It kind of gets handed to us, but we usually don't talk about it. And one of the things I've noticed about it is that it doesn't change, like over the years. It seems like, it's high, it's on the high side. There are certain elements that are particularly high, like healthcare I think is one of the things on that cost of living index. And well, I'm wondering if there's a way to put that in the profile as well, if it's not there. But also, I'm wondering if it's something that the TRPC might want to have a conversation about, the fact that we look at these numbers every year, they don't change. Some of them are really high. And I'm just wondering how we process that. That's all. But thanks. Yeah, I love the profile. I love this data stuff. It's really, really useful. Oh yeah, I had one more thing. And that is that because I love data stuff, even though I'm not trained in it, I love playing with the US Census demographics. And one thing I found is that if you break it down if you're looking at race and ethnicity data and you break it down to the census tract level, you get some really good geographic information out of that. And I'm wondering if there's a way to incorporate that into the race and ethnicity data too, like because it's really easy to get, to get it down to the tract level and pull that data out of it. Thanks.
Yeah, TRPC put some maps together on race and ethnicity for our Title VI reporting, and we've started including some of those maps on the website as well.
Thank you, Michael. Good questions, Helen, and reflections. Yeah, I share your enthusiasm for the data. David, go ahead.
Thank you. Just a quick comment. Yeah, I think the profile is great. I love seeing all the data too, and how things are growing around this area. One thing I just want to make a comment on was languages spoken at home. I know at Nisqually, we're doing a lot of work right now to bring back our traditional language, the Lushootseed language. We're working with local school districts to get that implemented to the youth, and I think it might be a good time to add that to the profile as well.
Yeah, I can follow up with you on that if you have good numbers on it. That'd be really fascinating to include.
Sounds good.
Yeah, thank you. What a great suggestion. Are there any other questions or comments, or anyone else want to fangirl with Robin and I about the profile, or? All right. Well, thank you again. I can't wait for next year. It's always my favorite. I think even when I'm not on TRPC, I'll probably chime in for the actual profile quiz thing because I'm just an addict now. Okay. That brings us to our report from outside committee assignments. And Helen, do you have something for us today?
Well, I do. I did send in a written report that has links to it. So that will be part of the, I'm not sure, Mark can maybe explain where that goes. You guys are supposed to get that somehow or other. I said it yesterday, so it wouldn't surprise me if it hasn't been processed yet. The meeting was last week. This is the Growth Management Policy Board that I sit on just to gather information for the TRPC. They continued to talk about equity and the work that they've been doing around equity. They've created an equity advisory committee. So they talked a lot about the last year of work of pulling that together. They've done a lot of workshops. They've done a couple of reports. One of them was on, I think, institutional or structural racism. What do you call it? And they've done a lot of work around transportation and equity, but it doesn't, from the sound of it, it doesn't seem like it's particularly ahead of what Thurston County's been doing, because they've also been looking at the health dimension of that in particular. I guess one thing that they brought up is that one thing they want to try to do in the future around transportation and equity is make sure there's better representation of the health community on their advisory and working groups. So, that was kind of a big discussion about that. And then also in relation to transportation, they've got a in the PSRC area, I guess, there's a $6 million set aside for a competitive transportation equity pilot program, where they're gearing it towards putting an equity lens to transportation projects when they're doing their grant making. So they're doing that, I think, because as they're trying to develop their data and analysis methods and strategies, they want some kind of a way of having a metric as to whether it works or not. And so I think through this transportation equity pilot program, they want to do a little ground truthing. So that will be something to watch over time, I guess. And then in terms of the equity work that PSRC is doing, they are talking, as I think Thurston County does, about the scope of that, and not only race and ethnicity, but different educational levels, incomes, geographic representation, ability, disability, thinking about multiculturalism as kind of distinct from race and ethnicity, anti-racism. These are all things they're struggling with quite a bit, like anybody, in terms of how you turn that into work. So, that's what they talked about. Anyway, so I guess that's just to say that everybody's kind of in the same place on trying to figure out how to turn that into effective policy. But they do have a equitable engagement guidance. So one thing that they are working on pretty hard is how to get started with that, and how communities can be represented in the planning process. And there's a link to that guidance if people are thinking about their public participation planning and how to incorporate equity into that. So that was a big part of the discussion, as is often the case these days up there. And then the other big topic that they covered was Puget Sound recovery. They talked about how Puget Sound recovery and is incorporated into their Vision 2050 strategy. And I've got some links about that. There are a lot of different ways. There's planning stormwater parks, building green cities, building cities in the rain are three guidance documents that they have that I've provided links to. And then they're for open space and conservation. They have the conservation toolkit, the regional open space conservation plan, and transfer of development rights information. And then they talked a lot about the Puget Sound Partnership Action Agenda for 22 to 26. And the main thing about that, and again, I've included a link, is that there is a very easy to use Explorer tool for that, where you just go to the website and you click on what you're interested in, be it stormwater parks or shorelines or anything like that. And you can just get right into it. And it is a very nice tool that they've developed. And then they talked about what kinds of services the Puget Sound Partnership can provide to local governments. They claim that they stand ready to help local governments with their grant writing efforts and other things, and that they are a resource that local governments should really think about utilizing. And they also talked about where it seems like if you want to write a successful grant, they're getting a sense of what things are being looked for. So, and one of the things that they emphasized was that landscape scale multiple partner kinds of projects are being looked upon very favorably these days. One person, I forget where she was from, but she commented on that very sticky issue of connecting Puget Sound recovery to the challenge of dense housing. And one thing that the representative from the Puget Sound Partnership suggested was looking at the work of the PSP's Ecosystem Coordination Board. And I included a link to that, saying that they have a smart growth subcommittee that is apparently addressing this issue. And it might be worth connecting with them. Let's see. I think that's about it. The Department of Commerce came on and also talked about all the resources that they are offering related to the Puget Sound Action Agenda. And especially stormwater is a big one for them. And that for the governor's salmon recovery plan, Commerce has made a strong proposal that there be grants to local governments to integrate water characterization and salmon recovery plans directly into comp plans. So hopefully that's something that I guess the legislature will take seriously. That's about it. If there are any questions, I'm happy to take them.
Thanks, Helen. And I assume that the written report, doesn't that typically come with the meeting summary, Mark?
Yeah, that's correct. It'll be in the after meeting summary.
Okay, great. Thank you for the written report and the links, Helen. That's really helpful for folks who want to dig in and follow down some of those links that you mentioned. Okay, that brings us to the executive director's report.
Yeah, just a few things. One, the award letters went out for all the projects that council approved in our federal call for projects process last month. Pretty darn excited about that. Over 11 million in projects that are going to be done here in the future. So thanks for your action on that. We just wanted to make council aware. I provided testimony to the House Transportation Committee last night, and I will to the Senate on Tuesday. And this is about our legislative priority in relation to I-5. Just a reminder, this project for the Nisqually River Delta portion received $75 million in Move Ahead Washington to do the design work for any corrections across the Nisqually River Delta. And in the governor's budget, they timed out that Move Ahead Washington funding, and it was slated to begin in 2031. That is problematic for this work because the state has, as we've talked about before, the state and WashDOT have already invested over $9.5 million in the National Environmental Policy Act review of this work. That's starting and just right now and scheduled for completion in 2025. And if we have a 6-year gap between the NEPA work being completed and then the next phase, the design and engineering starting, much of that NEPA work would need to be redone. They're not good for 6 years. And so this timing is quite problematic, and we're going to make sure to make both the House and the Senate Transportation Committees aware of this challenge. And lastly, excited to announce we had been recruiting for a planner for quite some time, and we have Crosby Carter, who a number of people might recognize. She will be joining our staff on Tuesday, and we are super excited about that. So we'll get a chance to introduce her to all of you that haven't met Crosby before at an upcoming meeting, but we're really excited about that. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks for the updates, and that's great news, Mark. I'm excited to welcome Crosby to the team. That brings us to member check-in. So this is a time when, if you'd like to share something out that's going on in your community that you think we'd all like to hear about, or if you just want to reflect something that you've heard here today that you're excited to bring back to your community, this is your time to do that. So is there anybody who is ready to share out? I'm looking for, oh, David, go ahead.
Yeah, just want to give an update. We've been working on a new C-store at the roundabout coming into the reservation. That will be opening up for business the week of the 1st, February 1st. So look out for some grand opening day. I think there'll be some cheap gas giveaways. But yeah, it'll be a full service gas station, deli. There's a separate coffee shop, and it'll be called the Camas Plaza.
Nice. Thanks for sharing, David. Let's go to Carolyn.
I wanted to share that Lot is going to be the recipient of the 2023 National Environmental Achievement Award in recognition of the reclaimed water infiltration study that it has been working on. The study specifically addressed community questions about residual chemicals that may remain in reclaimed water. So this will be presented in February.
That is so exciting. And we heard about that study, like, was it last meeting or 2 meetings ago? Yeah, last meeting. Well, that is exciting. Congratulations, Lot. Clark, go ahead.
Thank you, Rico. I just want, I don't think I've mentioned here that I've been working on and had an interest in DNR's rules for commercial timber harvest inside of an urban area. We had a 20-acre clear cut on the west side of Olympia, and in the process of that happening, we found that the city was not allowed to request mitigation for the impacts of the logging work, nor did we have any say in sort of the long-term plan or the reforestation. And I certainly wasn't aware of that before. Former Senator Karen Fraser and I met with our 22nd legislative delegation yesterday, and I've been speaking with DNR staff trying to figure, I just think it's reasonable at this point that our local jurisdictions would have some input and some collaboration in shaping a commercial timber harvest within the urban area. So that's on my mind. And I'm wondering, while Carolyn is still on the top left of my screen anyhow, if she might also speak to the 2 advisory committees that have openings for the Regional Housing Council. I'm hoping that all of you will recruit. So far, it's mostly Olympia folks who have thrown in their hats.
Sure, Clark. Let's see, applications are due January 23rd. So that's the important takeaway here. There are 2 advisory councils being formed to provide feedback to and advice to the Regional Housing Council. One will deal more with how state and federal grant money is used in the community on housing projects, and the other will be more concerned with affordable housing. We are hearing primarily from social service agencies at this point. And as Clark said, I think the applicants received so far have primarily been from Olympia. I think there's 1 Lacey applicant, but we're looking to hear from a broader group than just the social services sector. We want to hear from business, retail, building sector, realtors, home buyers, and just every average citizens, anybody and everybody who has a stake in this. So if you all could please help share the word. The applications are on the Regional Housing Council page, which is part of the Thurston County website. Thanks.
Thank you for sharing. Maybe that can make it into the meeting summary. Yeah, somebody.
Yes, we can do that.
Sorry.
And I think Helen has her hand up.
Oh, sorry, Helen. You're very
sure.
small on my screen, so it's hard.
Yeah,
for me to
I know.
see.
Well,
Go ahead. What would you like to go ahead and do some share out?
Yeah, well, if anybody's looking for something to do for Martin Luther King Day activity, and need some exercise, the Thurston Conservation District will be tomorrow doing a planting. And all I can say is go to the website and register for it today, because it's on a farm, so you kind of need the map to get sent to you. But it's a real riparian restoration activity. So, if if you've got your green thumb feelies starting early this year, come on out.
Thanks, Helen, and a good reminder about the day of service. So appreciate it. Anybody else have something they'd like to share out, or something they're excited to bring back with them? Oh, Mark, go ahead.
Well, I just wanted to note that we have Graham Sackerson back with us on council. And so taking over again for North Thurston Public Schools. So good to see you, Graham.
Oh, Graham, I'm sorry I missed when you joined us. I apologize. It's nice to have you. I will share out that our school district is a year into our equity policy and planning work, and we are launching focus groups this month. And so if you have an interest in that work, you can participate in a focus group that's facilitated by the steering committee, but you can also take some trainings to take the focus group toolkit out to your community and then report back to the school district about the kinds of equity work that you think in your community thinks is important. So, and even if you're just sort of like curious about it, check it out. It's an exciting way of going about doing this work, making sure that we are going out into communities and partnering with communities rather than requiring people to fill out surveys exclusively. It's a growing and learning experience for us, and I'm happy to see how it turns out and share that out with y'all. And as you know, I'm always excited about bringing the profile back to my constituents and my jurisdiction. So thanks again for that good work. Is there anyone who has additional share outs or check-ins or anything they want to share for the good of the order? All right. Well, then we are adjourned very early this month, but you know what? Let's give you the gift of time. Is it really rainy out there? Well, it's a little misty. Go for a little walk in the rain. And we'll see you all back here on February 3rd for our next meeting, and it is a remote meeting. So take good care, everyone.